Now, as you may have heard on the news, there have in the last couple of years been some 50 cases of serving police officers using their position to abuse vulnerable women. The most notorious was Stephen Mitchell, who worked in Northumbria and was jailed for rape and indecent assault in January 2011. The Independent Police Complaints Commission has produced a report together with the Association of Chief Police Officers and highlights 6 similar cases. Dame Anne Owers chairs the IPCC and early this morning told me about the cases they'd examined.
Well, they vary from the case of Stephen Mitchell, who was convicted of 5 sexual offences, 6 counts of misconduct in public office, through to police who've targeted vulnerable young people or men with whom they want to have a sexual relationship and sometimes a non-consensual sexual relationship. So it's quite varied. And what's also sometimes clear is that this kind of behaviour has escalated over time from just inappropriate language touching behaviour to, in some cases, sexual violence and abuse.
And how have the officers targeted the women, or in some cases, as you say, men that they've abused?
A variety of means, sometimes through contacts, through people who've approached them. Some of those people are vulnerable already by way of mental illness or problems with drugs and alcohol. And of course those people are more likely to come into contact with the police. Sometimes using computer systems to try to track down people of a certain type, age, sexuality that they might want to target. I think one of the points is that there are a lot of vulnerable people who come into contact with the police. But also, I think the other side of that is that people who come into contact with the police are often vulnerable at the point that they come into contact with the police. Something awful has happened to them, or they are upset or worried about something. And that's why I think the abuse at that stage or of those kind of people is particularly serious.
Now, there's talk of some 56 cases in the past 2 years. That was the number that we heard on the Today programme this morning. How widespread do you reckon it is?
Well, that's very difficult to say. Those were 54 cases referred to the IPCC over a 2-year period to be investigated. Some of those, they were cases to be investigated, is all we can say. But of course, there is almost certainly underreporting of this. What we know in any case about women who experience abuse is that it takes a number of occasions before women feel confident in reporting any kind of domestic violence or abuse. We know that the kinds of people sometimes who are targeted are not people who think they will be believed, and in some cases, as these cases show, are people who weren't believed because of their past history. So the answer to your question is that we don't know. I think, though, if we try and locate this between, is it one rotten apple or is it endemic? I'd say neither of those things. But there is a systemic issue, which is how can police forces and how should police forces put in place systems where there is proper supervision, proper vetting, proper sharing of intelligence, and crucially, proper learning from when things do go wrong
but
to try to prevent.
The extraordinary thing is that isn't already automatically in place, because you have to say to yourself, how on earth are police officers getting away with using the police computer to abuse people?
Well, exactly, and that's why supervision and passing of intelligence is so important. And I think one of the troubling things in some of these cases is that there were warning signs, that people were trying to alert other officers, colleagues, people within the police service. And I think one of the really heartening things, of course, in these cases is that they only come to light because people in the police service take them seriously and are appalled by them. And I think that's an important message, and that's why it's really crucial this report is being produced jointly with the Association of Chief Police Officers, who are absolutely behind the kind of things that we need to see happening.
It has to be said that The Guardian in June did quite a big report on this, and you have to wonder, why has it taken so long after Mitchell, who was convicted 2 years ago, for it to come to you and then to be properly revealed?
That's a fair question. I think what happened after Mitchell was we suddenly realised we were getting quite a number of cases like this. And of course, when a case like this does surface, it gives confidence to other people to report such things. And so we realised we were getting it, and that's why we kind of put in place this research exercise, and it's why the Association of Chief Police Officers did the same. So yes, I think it is revealing something that ought to have been tackled before, and hopefully now will be tackled properly in the future.
I mean, yours are recommendations, and all right, you're recommending that there should be better vetting and clearly that people should be better observed. But how likely is it that police forces will adopt only recommendations? They don't have to adopt them.
They don't have to. We don't have any regulatory power. But I think the good thing is that this is a report produced jointly with ACPO, and it's countersigned by the head of the professional standards part of ACPO. Now, each force has its professional standards department. Therefore, these are owned by senior police officers themselves, and particularly their professional standards department. And it's the standards in here that we would expect and hope and believe that professional standards departments will now be taking on and using themselves.
Now, we know your job is to investigate police corruption. We heard yesterday that Norman Bettinson, who was involved in Hillsborough, has been referred to you. What are you expecting will be your role in what's been revealed about Hillsborough?
Well, to be honest, we are still looking at the